Hello, I'm David. I'm a fourth-year psychology student. I'm going to be talking about mental health and free will. First, I'm going to talk about mental health, two different approaches to mental health, and then I'm going to talk about my research, which is about free will, more specifically about believing in free will and what that might mean for your mental health, which is a bit relevant to what Kevin was talking about. But first, life. It can be complicated, but I'm going to ask you a simple question about your life right now. Would you rather be feeling bad, okay, or good? I don't think it's... Hey, yeah, good? Okay. Yeah, so that's the preferable option, right? It might be a bit more complicated than that, but for now, let's just say feeling good is the best. How can we help? How can we help people on their journey to feeling good, having a better life where they can feel good more often? So from psychology, there are broadly two ways you can do this. You can come at it from the negative approach, where you look at people who are suffering the most, learn about them, and then help them. And it looks something like this. So they're not feeling as bad anymore. And you may not have heard of the negative approach to mental health before, but it's going to be familiar to you because what usually happens is the diagnosis and treatment of mental illnesses. But the problem with this approach, not that it's bad, is just it doesn't distinguish between people who are having a really good life and people having an okay life. It focuses on the bad life. And we've just said that having a good life is the best option. Feeling good is better. So if you don't distinguish between feeling okay and feeling good, you can't help people on their journey from feeling okay to feeling good, and most people are just feeling okay. So the positive approach, you look at people who are the happiest, who are having the lives they enjoy the most, and you use that information to help everyone else have a happier life. And this is the goal. Just as many happy faces as possible in the world. And you might look at this and think, that looks really annoying. I don't want everyone to smile at me like that all the time. But it's not just about happiness. When you look at it from the positive approach, the people having the best lives are the people who have the highest levels of well-being, which is a general measure of things like happiness, but also life satisfaction and how much meaning they find in their life. So basically, they're looking at the people who can deal with life the best, people who have the best mental health. So who are the healthiest people? What are they like? They tend to be grateful, optimistic, kind, and forgiving. And these aren't just random examples. These are all examples that have been turned into therapies. And they're not fully fledged therapies where it's like an hour a week of talking to someone. For example, gratitude therapy, you just get people to write thank you letters for things that they should be thankful for or are thankful for, and it helps them, it improves their well-being after doing this. And the rest are the same. You try to make people more similar to people who are healthy, and it makes them healthier. There are other examples that haven't been turned into therapies. For example, religious people tend to be really happy and healthy. But I don't think a psychologist should start trying to convert their patients into a particular religion. And also, no one really knows why religious people are so happy and healthy, so that can be something that you can think about. Healthy people tend to be resilient, which is analogous to a boxer who can take a lot of punches before falling down, but also get back up quickly after falling down. It's the mental equivalent of that. They tend to be pro-social, which is the opposite of anti-social, so it's doing things that are good for society, like charity, or volunteering, stuff like that, or just complimenting people, I guess. And they also feel autonomous, which means they feel as if they are in control of their life and that most of the things they do are not forced upon them. And this is where my research comes in, because it seems to me that people who believe in free will, who believe they can control their life, are more likely to feel like they are controlling their life, and therefore more likely to feel autonomous, and therefore more likely to be healthy. So that's essentially my research question. Is free will belief healthy? And I've split that up into two questions. Is free will belief associated with higher levels of well-being? And is free will belief associated with lower levels of depression? Now, depression, the way I've measured it, I'm not treating it as a diagnosis where some people are depressed and some people are not. I'm placing everyone on a scale between very depressed and not at all depressed. So I'm going to talk about free will belief and well-being. So other than the autonomy link, why would I think there's a connection between free will belief and well-being? Well, actually, we know pro-social behavior is related to well-being, and something that's quite interesting is if you show people a passage of text that really strongly argues against the existence of free will, after reading this, they will be more likely to cheat at a game that involves sharing things with each other and be less willing to help people. So they're less pro-social if they are sort of induced not to believe in free will. So from this we can say free will belief is associated with well-being. But this is not the truth, this is what I'm testing. Free will belief and depression. So belief in a control over the situation reduces depression. And there's a few examples of concepts that show this, but one is learned helplessness. Now if you get some rats or mice and you electrify the floor under them in unpredictable patterns that they cannot escape from. I don't condone this experiment, but it's quite interesting. And then eventually you make it so they can escape from this electrifying. 20 to 25% of the mice won't escape still because they won't even try, because they've learned that they cannot control the situation at all. And the idea is that there's some link with depression there, where people believe they have no control over their situation. So from this we can say free will belief is negatively associated with the depression, meaning free will disbelief is associated with depression. And again, that's something I'm testing. And how am I testing it? Well, I made a questionnaire that measured free will belief, well-being, and depression. And these aren't just random questions I made up, they're like random questions academics made up. And then I collected the data, I distributed it using the psychology subject pool. And now, who knows what the psychology subject pool is here at the uni? Yeah, nice, okay. So it's a thing where you can sign up and then take part in people's research at the psychology department, and you can get paid. So you should sign up. And then I did some statistics, and for the purpose of this presentation, I just did some simple stuff because my mentor really strongly told me not to talk about any of the statistics I actually do. So what I tried to answer these questions: is free will belief associated with higher levels of well-being? It's not, and there could be a lot of reasons for this. I think probably believing in free will doesn't have enough of an effect on autonomy, feelings of autonomy or pro-social behavior, so that it affects well-being. But is free will belief associated with lower levels of depression? Yes, it is. And the association looks something like this, which basically means the more strongly you believe in free will, the less depressed you are likely to be. And anyone who knows about stats can see that that's a small negative correlation. But you don't expect to find big correlations in this kind of research because people are so complicated. But I didn't want to just talk about some really obscure results I did from a weird study. I wanted to talk about the big picture. I wanted to talk about happiness and healthiness and send two messages. Health is more than the absence of illness, and this is physical and mental. If you define health by illness, then you can't improve health past curing that illness or treating that illness. But that's not true, because you can become healthier. There are things you can do to improve your happiness and healthiness, like writing thank you notes or doing mindfulness, meditating, exercising, that kind of stuff. And you should want to do this. At least I want you to. Good. Any questions?
Thanks very much, that was really interesting. I wonder what you thought about free will in the relation of being sectioned under the Mental Health Act, because then it gets really complicated.
I haven't thought about that before. But
That's
yeah,
the thing I thought of.
yeah, no, that would, if you force people to stay in the same area and control what they do, that's surely not good for their health. That's what I would say, yeah.
Are you potentially saving their life?
Oh, that's true as well, yeah. So yeah, you have to look at it on a case-by-case basis.
So I was wondering if you could maybe give us a bit more information on what sort of way you ask people about whether they believe in free will. Because I can imagine it goes in two very different ways. I'm like aware of the fact that there are electrons that probably shape, or like on the physical level, all of what I do is actually shaped by some forces, or if I actually conduct myself in life that way.
Yes, so the way it's measured is there's a scale that has 3 subscales. It measures how much you believe in free will, how much you believe in determinism, which aren't always related, and how dualistic you are, so how much you believe your mind is separate from your body. So it's quite complicated the way it's measured. But yes, what you believe and how you behave can be different, which is probably why the correlations aren't that big.
I just wanted to ask, because you mentioned how religious people are happy and healthy, and how free will is a huge component in being happy and healthy. But personally, I believe being religious and believing in the concept of free will are two completely opposite things, because when you believe in God, you think God does everything, whereas free will is, hey, I'm doing it. So how did you kind of work around that, or how did you define free will to work around that?
Well, so obviously it would depend on the religious person, but there are interpretations of Christianity and the Abrahamic religions, for example, where God gave people free will, which is why they're able to do bad things. So that's how a lot of religious people can believe in free will, but it would depend on the person.
How would you advocate or would you advocate people believing in free will? And if you do, how would you kind of go about it as a psychologist? Just spitballing.
So there'd have to be more research to see if it is good for people to believe in free will, for you to actually try to force them to believe in free will. And you'd have to check if that was even possible to do that on a grand scale. But I think you do something similar to gratitude therapy, where you just sort of get them to read people arguing that free will does exist, and get them not to read things about people arguing it doesn't exist, but it would be really complicated to implement, yeah.
So I have a couple of questions from Slido. The first one is, what do you think is the biggest threat to a positive relationship with free will in modern society?
What's the biggest threat to a positive relationship with free will? So I'm guessing, the way I'm interpreting that question is, what's making people not believe in free will right now? And I'd say that would be neuroscience, findings about the brain and how unconscious impulses might be controlling us. But all of those experiments aren't actually that good if you look into it.
That leads quite nicely onto my second question, which is, so would you recommend ignoring all the scientific research that suggests that human beings don't actually have free will in order to be happy?
Right, so if it is true that people don't have free will, then there's a pragmatic argument to be made that you should ignore the truth if it makes people happier. But I don't think it is true that from science that no one has tested if there's free will or not, if you actually look at the way the experiments are conducted.
And the last question is, as it is pro-social, is let's talk about X a force for good?
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that was my answer. Yeah.